Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mental Wealth, where we work on ourselves so that we don't pass our crap down to our kids, Laura. We don't want to do that, ever.
Nope, we don't want to do that.
They don't need that Christmas present.
They don't. The gift that keeps on giving is generational trauma.
Yeah. No, thanks. So, welcome, Laura. I should probably introduce you. I always just start talking to you like, Laura's a household name. Everybody knows who she is.
I don't know about all that, but thank you.
Welcome, Laura, from Benavieri. Always a pleasure to have you here. Always a pleasure to talk through these things with you. And I know our audience members enjoy you so much as well. I get the feedback, so I know. So thank you out there, those of you who are giving us awesome comments and great feedback for Miss Laura. Let's dive right into it, because I think this is a giant, huge topic. So the question is how do we find peace, find happiness, regulate ourselves when we are in a situation that feels out of our control? For example, I'm working and at whatever place, and all of a sudden this new boss comes in, this new manager, whatever, and they're awful. And I don't like them, and they treat me like crap, and they totally ruin the environment for me. How do I deal with that?
Yeah, that's a really hard one. I think sometimes the situation is manageable and sometimes it's not. Sometimes the situation itself is one that you can navigate through, and other times we have to change our situation. But I think for this, like, initially we have to learn how to manage our own stuff, right? Like, so regulate our emotions, regulate internally first, and put ourselves in a position where we are capable of finding safety in each moment, capable of finding an internal sense of safety and like stability, using mindfulness, like grounding skills, all of those things that, some people say are kind of woo-woo or whatever, but like, those are really, really helpful skills, like visualizations and deep breathing, and getting yourself to a point where you feel settled, you feel stable, you feel like you're in control of you is the most important thing. And from there, our brain is capable of making good decisions, and we can know how to navigate the situation. Like sometimes, like if you're being, harassed at work or something, like that's an overwhelming, out of control situation.
Right.
But there are things that you can do about it. You just don't know that until you get yourself to a place where you have at least some sense of safety.
I love what you just said there. And I actually had this conversation the other day with a mama that was going through some stuff. She was very, very overwhelmed, and she was asking me for some resources. And so I gave them to her, and she was like, duh, I know about this. Why couldn't my brain think of this? Why did I just think to come to you? And I was like, well, I didn't say that's easy, but I kind of like said it kind of like that. I was like, well, that's an easy answer because you're in protection mode. What do you call it, Laura? You have like
hypervigilance, fight or flight, like you're in those defense mechanisms.
So that's where your attention is going to, right? Like that's what your brain's doing is, hey, keep me safe, instead of, oh, well, let's just pull up some resources, or let's just do a little research and figure this out, right? Like sometimes we're just not in that space.
Yeah. When something is happening to us actively right now, like our system, our internal system, our nervous system and our brain is going to force our bodies to utilize the energy and resources that are necessary to survive that situation. The part of our brain that thinks, like our thinking brain and our cognitive functioning, is not part of that survival, because thinking takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy to you have to be in a space that you're not being directly threatened in order to think through the problem and actually process and solve it.
And recall, right?
That's right. And recall, like, memory, using your experience, using memories of, things that have happened in the past or things that have happened to others. Like, where do I find my resources? How do I access this? But when we're directly being threatened, we don't have time for all that. We need to just get out. And so there's a hierarchy of process. If we can't, first, we're going to try to run away, like flee, right? So we always say it's fight or flight, but it's really flight first. So it's flight. And then if you can't run away or you can't flee, then you'll fight. If you can't fight and the fighting isn't working, then you'll freeze and hope they lose interest, right? And then just like think about, we're being attacked by a lion. If we can't freeze, then we're going to fawn or attachment cry. Like, we're going to try to make it like us.
Ah, yes.
Right? We're going to try to people please. We're going to make everything okay. We're going to like solve it by making everybody like us. And then if we can't do that, then we're going to submit. We're going to give up, and we're just going to go totally numb. And we're going to get our body and brain are just going to float outside of ourselves so that we can't feel any pain, and it's just going to be over. So that's the process. Every single time we're experiencing dysregulation, some level of that is happening. Something in our body is experiencing a threat, and it's one of those responses is happening. It's not happening on like 100% where it's like full steam ahead, you're running for your life. But those little like bouts of anxiety, or those little times where you're snippy and snappy, those times where you just can't think straight and you're so overwhelmed and you just want to sleep for days, like all of that stuff, those are all those responses that are happening inside of our bodies. When we're doing those things, we're not using our thinking brain.
Yeah. And I mean, I can think of so many times in my life where I've been in that position, and then that time has passed. So I have the opportunity to feel safe, to be calm, to be regulated, all of that. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I say that? Why didn't I do X, Y, Z? And that's why.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's exactly why. Like, I think about stuff that happens, and then I'll go back and be like, oh, I should have said this funny response to that thing that someone said to me that made me feel uncomfortable, right? You can always think of the response, or like in a fight with your partner or something, like you're like, oh, I had the perfect, like later on you come up with like the perfect comeback or the perfect way to explain something. Because in that moment, if you're dysregulated, then your fight system is on, or your flight system, or whichever system you're using is on. And that's really the purpose. Like, that's really the primary operating system. And it's not your thinking, calm, cool, collected, clever, brain that's giving you access, that's giving you information right now.
Yeah. Your experienced brain is not necessarily in the driver's seat.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So if I find myself in this situation, obviously, like, there's an answer, hey, get another job, right? But that isn't necessarily that easy.
No, it's not.
So while I'm figuring out my next big step, what kind of steps can I take to make my everyday better than what it is, or what I have been experiencing with this crazy boss?
I mean, I think initially create a process for yourself where you are taking breaks and finding like self-care moments. Like, what I think about when you're describing like this day of chaos or this horrible situation where I can't escape this person, I'm thinking, okay, I need 5-minute breaks every hour to go take a restroom break and reset myself and meditate for 5 minutes every hour. Take a walk around the building, or, if you're working from home, take a walk around the yard or the block or whatever, every 2 hours, maybe, if you can't do it every hour. Give yourself some space and time to slow down and keep yourself stable, even if you don't recognize that you're getting dysregulated. Because that's what happens, is we don't realize it until it's too late. Right. And we're already feeling overwhelmed and out of control.
And we're either feeling horrible in our bodies and in our minds, or we outwardly react, right? And then that could get us into a lot of trouble. So what I love about something that you said a bazillion years ago and I use every single day is my window.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling like I'm kind of at the edges of my window now. So maybe that's the time to go take a walk. If I can't do it like you said, like I love what you said about 5 minutes every hour. I mean, yeah, awesome, right? Get yourself that reset, get yourself that break. But what if you can't? What if that doesn't work? You know, hey, I'm outside of my window. Whoops, got to go to the bathroom, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like recognizing where your window is, though, that's a hard thing. Not everybody knows when they're in or out of their window. Like I see people and I'm like, you are out of your window of tolerance, right? And they don't know that they are. They're trying to power through. They're trying to, you know, just push through and white knuckle it and like just make it okay, instead of stopping to regulate yourself. Like how many times do we just push through our anxiety or our worries or whatever instead of actually stopping to start regulating? Why do we do that? I don't know the answer. I don't think.
I don't either. But I also love the trick of the safe space trick. And you've mentioned that just in this show, and you've mentioned it in, you know, a bunch of other episodes, is that place in my mind. So that place, and you know, because you've actually been there. So that place in my mind is my loft. Like when I am in my loft, I feel so safe and so secure and calm and well.
Yeah.
And so that's like when I'm out in the wild and I get anxious or something crazy happens, whatever it is, I'm like, I'm in the loft. And I just spend it like a minute in the loft, you know?
Yeah.
That works for me.
Yeah. And it takes practice for this to work too. Like not everybody has a safe space right away. Like I've asked people, and so another thing to note about the safe space is that it doesn't have to be a real place.
Oh, I like that.
It can be imagined. Like I've asked, I often will ask like, hey, where's a place that is the safest for you? But not everybody has one. Not everybody has something that they can reference like, oh, when I'm here, I feel the greatest. Especially people who live in a really toxic situation. When we have a lot of toxicity in our life, safety is not top of mind. It is not something that we have access to really regularly. And so our brain isn't wired for looking for that. So we have to create it. And that's okay to do. Bake it up.
So for example, if you really love the beach, that's you, right? You really love the beach.
Mine's the beach. I love the beach.
Yes. Yeah. So let's say, for instance, I mean, we live in Arizona. So let's say I have never been to the beach. But you can see pictures, you see it on movies, that kind of thing. So you can kind of create your own, which sounds fun, actually. I'm going to Tahiti. You know what I mean? Doesn't it sound fun?
Exactly right. Yeah, you can create your own. Or, you know, the forest. Oh, what's in the forest? What smells are there? So I'll ask questions like, what smells are there? What sounds are there? Are there animals? Is there a creek? Is there water, right? Is there a fireplace and it's crackling? Like, and you can hear that. You can design any kind of like cottage or space or, you know, is there a hammock? Is there a palm tree? Is there a little hut? Is there, you know, what's there for you that is going to be able to help you in this moment to activate more senses? So like not only what can I see, but what can I hear? What can I smell? What can I taste? Like, am I eating something? Or is there, you know, salty air or whatever, right? Like those things improve and enhance our safe space.
We need to invent something, Laura, that, because with technology now, like this is probably already invented, but you can create your own safe space, you know what I mean? And add all of those things that you just talked about and actually make it so that you can sometimes, for me personally, I have a hard time sometimes visualizing things if I haven't seen them. Yeah. You know? And that could be helpful. I'm going off on a tangent, I know, but hey, new business idea.
No, it's okay. I want to make an app where you can do that. I literally want to build something like that. I'm sure it exists, but I want to make one too.
Yeah, but our spin doesn't exist.
That's right.
So I feel like that that trick works in a lot of different situations.
Mhm.
Obviously, you know, having a boss that isn't working out for you makes your time at work, which we spend a lot of time at work, let's face
Right.
it, terrible, like really helpful to get that kind of down. And I
Mhm.
think that it translates into other times in our lives where we might feel we're sitting in something that's out of control, or we're a part of something that's out of our control, or something happens that we just don't like. Like, let's talk about the elections.
Mhm. Yeah.
There are, and I get it. I totally understand, rightfully so. There are some people that are real upset out there with the results of the election.
Yeah.
And they're living in the United States of America, and this is what's happening, right?
This is
Not
what's happening.
everybody can, right? And not everybody can change their location on a dime or even at
Mhm.
all. Like, how can those people help themselves feel regulated, safe, not fearful,
Mhm.
to whatever extent they can get there?
Mhm.
Like, let's help people feel comfortable today with this atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough one because no matter who wins, half of the country lose it, right? Like, I think it's like 50-50, right? So half of people might be really upset right now. The people who didn't get what they wanted, or the people who are feeling afraid, or people who are feeling really hurt personally. I've been hearing a lot of this from people these last few weeks, like feeling like they're taking it personally, and it hurts them personally as women or as people, who are experiencing discrimination. It's just tough, right? Like, it's a tough situation. And that doesn't necessarily only go with the election, but that's just life. Right. But I think it's important to acknowledge, like, it is, for somebody who's scared, they have a valid basis for their fear, even if you don't agree with it, even if you think it's inaccurate, right? Like, it doesn't have to be accurate. Like, fear isn't based in facts always.
Right.
And so what I find to be helpful is kind of recognizing, okay, making my world, like, zooming in on my core world, like me and you in this room right now. Nothing bad is happening to us.
Right.
Right. And so, like, we're finding safety in this second. We're connecting. We're here together. We're sharing with this group. We're doing something positive. I'm finding things to focus on that are adding to my world, that are benefiting my world, that are making our space better and safer and happier and healthier. And so I can really zoom in on the core of, like, where am I right now? And that's not to say we're not pretending, because sometimes I remember my son said to me one time, he was like, but that's not going to change anything. Right. And I'm like, you're right. Right. But that's not the goal.
Right.
Necessarily. Right. The goal for change, if you want to make change, go do something that makes change. But right now, what we're trying to do is cope. That's not what we're doing right now. Right. Once I'm stable and regulated and feel like I am optimized in my brain, and I can use my experience and use my insight and use my my passion, then I'll go and I'll use my passion. But right now, if I'm freaking out, that's not necessarily what we're trying to do. Right. So it's go ahead.
And I love that so much. And it reminds me of a quote that I saw just the other day. I want to even say it was yesterday. Yeah. And it said, no amount of guilt is going to change the past. No amount of anxiety is going to change the future.
Yes.
All you have is the right now. And what you do with the right now is the most important thing, was the gist of the quote.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Like, I think that's so true. The amount of our internal struggle, we don't have to struggle internally to make change. And I don't know that everybody knows that. we don't have to feel bad on the inside in order to make something change on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're coping, when we're getting present, when we're dealing with this moment, what we're doing is we're helping our feelings. We're not helping our situation until after that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to regulate first, inside first, then outside.
Which makes so much sense if we couple that with what we just said previously at the beginning of the video. Get yourself regulated so that you can work with your experienced brain.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then your experienced brain that can recall, that is resourceful and all of that is going to come into play. Then go make your change. Because I think you're exactly right. I think this election helped us understand that, hey, if we want to see things be different, or if we want to see things go a certain way, we need to get involved.
Right. Right. I think that's right. And I think with anything that we're suffering through, we need to involve ourselves in a change process, but we can't do that if we feel overwhelmed and out of control. We can't. Right. We don't. It's just not going to. Our brain is not optimized for our best functioning when we're under direct threat.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there is value in feeling your feelings, and if you need to scream, scream, and if you need to cry for 3 days, do it, and if you need to rip pillows up and throw stuff out the window, like, do you find value? Do you think there's value in just allowing yourself that moment? Because I know some people that I love and cherish had those moments recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I think you don't have to be okay all the time. But huge. There's a time and a place to release those feelings, and there's appropriate ways to release those feelings, right? But I can't do it. These kind of get present, regulate yourself, these are designed for moments where you can't go scream. You can't stop and cry for days. You can't, you don't have, it's not the time for that. Sometimes we need to make time for that. Mm. We need to make time to feel our feelings and process our feelings. And if that's an hour a week in therapy, or if that's, 5 minutes a day at night when you're by yourself after you put the kids to bed, or before everybody wakes up, or whatever, you have to make time to experience your emotions and release them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're just coping all the time.
And then I feel like, and you're the expert, so you tell me, and then we're just pushing it down, right. Pushing it down. And eventually that cork's going to pop up. Mm-hmm. We just can't keep the cork under the water forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely right. If all we're ever doing is suppressing, and we're not letting ourselves acknowledge and feel through our feelings, eventually those feelings are going to bubble up and they're going to explode and we're going to lose it.
And it can manifest in different ways too. I mean, in your practice and with what you do, and I don't know, maybe this is woo-woo. I'm getting into a territory I know nothing about, but can it manifest in physical ailments?
Yes, absolutely. So you might end up with breaking out in all hives or something like that. Or you might end up getting diagnosed with some kind of autoimmune condition. Right. Or you might end up your physical, you might just end up feeling exhausted all the time. I hear chronic fatigue and, digestive issues. I can't lose weight. I can't gain weight. My metabolism isn't right. Because when we're in survival mode, our digestive system is deprioritized, because if I'm running from a lion, it doesn't help me have to stop to poop. Right. I need to make sure. And then if I do, I'm going to leave a trail of myself. Right. And so I don't want them to find me. So I need to deprioritize my digestive system. And I need to make sure all that stuff stays inside so that I don't leave any trace because I'm hiding and running from this lion.
That I just mind blown right there. My mind just got blown, because there are a lot of, I'm going to say a lot of women, because That's who I talk to.
Right. That's who we're talking to now. That's who we
talk to a lot
forever.
of men.
Yes.
Sorry,
Okay.
guys. But
There's
are a
other
lot of
spaces for
women.
them.
Right. There are a lot of women that I know and love and cherish that have digestive issues, constipation issues that just simply are undiagnosed from the doctor. The doctor's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. When we have undiagnosed medical stuff like pain or indigestion or like, and it's not a food sensitivity. We've tried, we've eliminated all the foods, we've done all the things, we're whatever, but we're just still not there. That is chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
Because survival mode not only deprioritizes digestion, but it deprioritizes things like restful sleep. It deprioritizes things like, information processing. So like your short-term memory storage, like your like moving information from your day-to-day experiences into like short and long-term memory. It's not doing that, right? Because that's not necessary right now. We're just trying not to die. So when we're in survival mode, that's literally what's happening is our body is saying, okay, the only thing I need to not do is die. Everything else goes by the wayside. I don't care about anything else. I just need to try not to die.
And this is why, maybe, you tell me, we hear these crazy stories about people who have done exceptional things in emergencies, like moving cars off of train tracks and stuff, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly right.
Chills everywhere.
No, me too.
Ooh.
Yeah, like that is exactly right. Like we can do crazy things. Like, remember the guy a few years, this must have been a long time ago, I think. I don't know, but he like chewed his arm off.
Yes.
Like hiking or something. Because
I do remember. To free himself.
Correct. Who could do that? Right? You can't, like in a non-emergency situation, your brain would never allow you to do that.
Right.
It just wouldn't happen because there's so many reasons not to do that. There's
so many.
But if you're going to die, if the alternative is death, you will chew your own arm off. If the alternative is death, you can lift a car. If you need, like, our bodies are capable of these amazing things. But the chemicals involved in that process of like adrenaline and cortisol and, you know, and the dopamine and the analgesic chemicals that are like your natural opiates, like chemicals, all of those things are flowing through you at all times. And those are not supposed to be long-term chemicals.
Right. Because I think if they were long-term, there would be some issues developing, right?
That's right. It causes us harm.
Right.
And so when we're in survival mode, we have that sort of harm that's being caused by all of this stress. Our adrenal system, which is what is creating all those chemicals and processing, you know, saying, hey, you know, use more of this right now or use less of this right now. Our adrenal system will just burn out.
Yeah.
It just burns out and you can't do it anymore. And your body starts to shut down.
Yeah. I totally agree on all of that. As far as the current climate we're in, if somebody is looking to feel better, would you suggest paying attention to the news or not?
I think it depends on what you're doing with the news, what you pay attention to. So like if you can be somebody who, I'm a news reader. I prefer, I like to know the news. I have a podcast that I listen to every morning for the daily news. And I just kind of get my information and then I move on. Now, if you're a ruminator, if you're somebody who hears the news and then needs to like deep dive and then you're going down these rabbit holes and you're like ruminating and fixated on it, and it's taking up a lot of your time and it's causing you a great deal of stress, I'd say probably not.
Yeah.
But you know, I think curating your content to align with like sources that are valid and sources that are true and that you believe in, and double checking your sources. Like, you know, you were sharing before we started recording, really being choosy about the news that you're reading and going in a little deeper than the headlines.
Right. Because they can, how many times has your eye been caught by a headline and you're like, I'm going to read that. And it was totally not even relevant to the headline.
Yes, that totally happens to me. It'll be like this headline that's like this, and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, whoa, really? No way. Let me learn about this. And then I read about it and it's like something totally like not even necessarily like a big deal at all. Maybe it's super benign, or like it's like almost unrelated to the headline. And you were saying that's just to drive clicks, right?
Well, right. I mean, let's think about it. It's the media is a business. So they've got to make money by the amount of attention that people pay to them. So clickbait, I mean, we all know that buzzword. And I think we need to be really careful about it. I mean, quite frankly, just being honest, when I put out a podcast, I want my title to be super eye-catching. I want it to be click-worthy. I mean, I like to think we're honest here, and whatever our title matches our content at least.
Yeah, at least it does.
But that's something that's important to me, because I want our show to get out there. I want more mamas to hear us. I want to help more people. So I'm driven by that. I'm certainly not, these big media companies that gets paid however much they get paid for it. It's certainly not that, but we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And thinking about the news, when you see a quick video, like a lot of us get our stuff from like Reels or TikTok or whatever.
Shorts and
it's too short. If something catches your attention and you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting, go to a news organization, like a real news organization, and look up that story, or look up a story about that thing. Like, do more research, find maybe 2 to 3 sources. Like, and these are basically what you learn in critical thinking class in college or whatever, or if you take that in high school, which I don't think we take that in high school, and I think we should take that in high school, just saying.
I had critical thinking, but I don't know that we talked about this.
Yeah, I think
it was a long time ago, though.
It was right. Maybe there was different
internet articles.
Correct. Right. We weren't competing with clicks and algorithms. Sure. But yeah, it's really important to like validate your sources and look deeper than just that quick video or that shocking thing that you saw. Not to believe everything that you read on the first try. There's a lot of, my friend said propaganda. There's a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of stuff that's maybe starting with a little bit of truth, and then just blowing it up and making it about more than it's about. And it can be really overwhelming and distressing. And then to remember that in this room right this second, I'm okay. And then I can do something about this. If I want to get involved in it, or I can find an advocacy group, I can get involved in an organization, I can go run for something, I can utilize my resources to do that. But I can't do that if I'm freaking out all the time.
I totally
agree.
If I'm
paralyzed by fear.
I totally agree. And I that's what this election season taught me. And I've had this conversation with a few people, is if you want to see change, go join in. If you want to see a certain thing happen, if you want to, you know what I mean? Like, go and be a part of it. Because I think oftentimes we kind of sit in our houses and, throw things at the TV because we're mad at it, but we're not getting involved.
Right.
And we're just kind of reacting to what we're force fed.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I think that can be the other thing is, our algorithms are feeding us information that we already are likely to want.
Right.
So if we're already seeing something that's scaring us, we're going to get more content that's scaring us. Like it's just going to continue to spiral. It's what they call an echo chamber of like just your own views being spit back at you over and over and over. So you're really not getting anything new unless you go and seek it out. And so when you see something that's like alarming to you or that's interesting, go seek out more information about that thing. from different sources, not just one platform, not just social media, but also news organizations, also, you know, local sources, local news sources too.
I totally agree. And what you said was really big about, so we have short attention spans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So reels and shorts all day long.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, I mean, how many reels can I watch in an hour versus a long video, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that I have done, you know, as of the last decade, is if I see a clip of something
Mm-hmm.
that interests me, I'm going to go watch the speech, or I'm going to go watch the full
Mm-hmm.
version of that video, because things can so easily be taken out of context with a couple of words in a headline, pop a small clip. Okay, that's what it is. And it could not necessarily be, or it could not necessarily be as severe as they may be trying to get you to believe. I think that we have to understand that these, again, they're looking for clicks, they're looking for money, they're looking for emotional upset. They're looking for you to be emotional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're looking for the reaction.
There you go, reaction. Yes.
Yeah. And so I do think that in this climate right now, there's so much access to so much content that you can get from so many places, that we want to be careful that we're not overloading ourselves, and we want to mix it up a little bit too, right? Like, you know, let's read about the political thing that you're reading about, but then find a story about, you know, 10 different ways to, you know, make peace in nature or something. I don't know, whatever. Like, diversify your content so that you're also getting, you know, I was telling my kids that I must have watched a video on somebody making a cake. I must have like had it on there for 3 seconds or more or whatever, because now Facebook thinks I really want to watch cake videos. So I just see cake videos all the time now. And I'm not getting as much plants pictures that I usually get, because I like plants.
Right. Because you're a plant girl.
So I gotta go like some more plant photos and get those back in my feed. Maybe comment on something so that I can get some more plants back in there, because all I'm seeing is cakes. When you notice that all you're seeing is one thing, bring something else in. Watch a mindfulness video. Comment on something, like something that makes you feel good, and then bring that into your feed too.
I totally agree with that. And I think that social media in general, but specifically politics and that whole thing, is very addicting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like us with tattoos, right? Like it's very addicting. And honestly, like my husband and I had this conversation many cycles ago, many administrations ago, where he's like, I feel just, I have to put my phone down. I have to stop looking at XYZ publication or XYZ news channel, because it's making me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we had that conversation, and I get it.
Yeah. It can just rile you up. And then you get stuck in this like rage cycle. Mm-hmm. That's what they call it, doom scrolling. And you just find this stuff that, you know, is constantly releasing these bouts of adrenaline. And then you get addicted to this process of like the dopamine and the adrenaline that's happening from clicking through and reading more and being outraged and being surprised. Like these are highly emotional reactions. They're doing that on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we need to, like with any addiction, realize that.
Yeah. We need to realize it. And then we need to figure out, where are we on the stages of change? Are we ready to make a change? Like, I think one of the things that we don't talk about very often is we're always talking about using these grounding skills and coping and being okay. But I think there's an accountability here too, where it's like, am I willing to make a change in my habits and my patterns day to day to get okay, to stay okay? Am I willing to do that? I think that's an important question that we don't really respect enough. Like everybody just expects us to like, oh, well, of course you're going to want to do that. No, not really. I don't think that's always true. I think sometimes we're not really ready yet. to like make a change. And that's okay. We just have to be honest about that. Like, where are we? The first stage of change is actually called pre-contemplation. It's like, I'm not even thinking about thinking it. I'm
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a stage. I'm in pre-contemplation, meaning I'm not even thinking about changing. Where are we? Where are we in this process? Are we in action? Are we in maintenance? Are we in contemplation? Everybody is going to be in a different place when it comes to, am I ready to actually do something different and create new habits and make a positive change in my life?
Yeah. So to kind of loop it all back in, we're in this space. No amount of being upset about it, although it's understandable, is going to change it. No amount of saying bad things about the other side or to the other side is going to change it. Coping with it is important till we get to that point.
Yeah.
To where we can step in and say, hey, I'm going to become a part of this. I am going to be a voice for XYZ. And that feels empowering.
Yeah.
Like now all of a sudden I'm not a victim of what's going on.
Right.
Like I'm starting to step into my power. And that feels a lot better, obviously, a lot more calm, a lot less anxious to, even if you're not fully in your power, but to be making those steps toward that. So what comes between upset, fear, hysterics, and stepping into your power? What comes between that?
Calm.
Like acceptance?
Acceptance. Yes. Acceptance. Absolutely. Acceptance is hard because sometimes when we say, if I'm accepting it, then that means I'm not going to change it. But the opposite is true.
Right.
We have to accept the present reality in order to make any kind of change to it, because without accepting the present reality, we're in denial.
Right. And you don't really have anything to build off of. Like, and I love what you said right there. And I want to say it again. So accepting it doesn't mean I like it. Accepting it doesn't mean that I agree with it. Accepting it is simply, this is reality. Here's where I am. And you can use that as a springboard, right? Like you can go somewhere from there. Right.
You're acknowledging the present reality. That's all that's what that means. And when we acknowledge the present reality, we can make changes more easily because we're able to use our experienced thinking brain to make changes that we want to make. We can access our resources in that case.
Right. Ooh, it's a heavy one. I'm like,
I know.
And my breathing's a little bit heightened because it's a heavy one.
Yeah.
I know, right?
You got to take a breath. Take a cleansing breath. Everybody collectively take a cleansing breath.
Yes. Right now. Do a little yoga pose. Downward dog, everybody.
Or the superhero pose. I like that one.
Yes. Somebody said that to me the other day. Funny you should say that because I got a call from a producer. I didn't tell you this. So I got a call from a producer. I'll be real quick because it's a little off topic, but superhero pose is a thing. So I got a call from a producer who wants to do a documentary about real estate and divorce. And that's like kind of my thing, right? I specialize in that. And so I'm nervous because my interview is next week, right? And I really want to get on this documentary because not only is it a cool experience, but it'd be really great for my brand and to get the word out there that I specialize in this. I mean, I do other things too, but this is like my niche. And so I put a post out in Mom Nation. I was like, hey guys, here's what happened. Give me all your TVing advice. And someone said that. Someone was hey, like, be yourself. Obviously, there's a reason that you even have this opportunity. And right before you go in, do the superhero pose. Yes. Like, oh, that's so cute.
It's true. It's a real thing. It actually, so our vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in our body that starts in our brainstem and goes all the way through our it touches every single nerve in our entire body. It's like the core of our nervous system. when we do the superhero pose, we're actually aligning that in a way that that nerve is optimally positioned for like maximum best functioning.
I love it. I had no idea.
Such a thing. Yeah.
I had no idea that it was even a thing until she said it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then you just taught me something.
Yeah.
About
I
it.
love the superhero pose.
Yeah.
So whoever gave that advice, I support that advice.
So cool. We had a kind of a third topic that I wanted to throw in, but we're getting kind of close to time. I don't think we have enough time to really do it justice. But I want to. So for a future show, I will circle it because I think it's important, especially for our mama audience. There was a lot of meat in this one, and I think it's so super relevant for what a lot of people are going through out there right now. So thank you so much for having this conversation. Is there anything else about this topic, how to remain in control of yourself in an uncontrolled situation or in a situation you don't feel in control of? Anything else that we didn't share that you think is important?
As you're asking me that, the only thing I'm thinking of is that it's okay to change things. Is like, you don't have to be stuck in misery.
Yeah.
You don't have to tolerate everything. You don't have to just be okay all the time. You can actually make change your situation if you have to, but get calm, get yourself together first, and then you can make a change. But you don't have to stay just because that's what you're used to. New things are risky, but they pay off a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That's my last thought.
So true. I love it. And I love the tips and the tricks that you shared. I use them. So thank you for sharing it with our audience.
Absolutely.
Well, they're good. Yeah. And we definitely need to work on app development for that app.
Yes, absolutely.
We're so making it. You heard it here, folks.
I want to.
We'll have a discount code for y'all.
Definitely. Yes.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Laura, for being here. I don't know if we've done this in the last couple of shows, but real quick for our people, especially our Arizona people, how can they connect with you?
You can find my website at benavieri.com. It's BENAVIERI.com, and request consultation, read from the blog, more tips and tricks, find all my socials at Benavieri, and you can reach out anytime.
Well, I know your office is awesome from personal experience. So thank you for being a super cool boss.
I try to make it a cozy place.
It is. Yeah. I love your office. It always feels so, whenever I walk in, I don't know, I haven't been there in a minute, but whenever I walk in, it always just feels like the right place to be.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's
the right place to be.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to make you a sign now that says, this is the right place to be.
Yes. That should be my neon sign for my green background.
I love it.
You know how they do the leaves background and the neon sign? That's what it should say.
There you go. New background coming soon. 2025.
Yes. It'd be perfect.
Awesome. Well, and again, I just reminded myself this is our very last show of 2024. So I'm wishing you all an amazing holiday season. I know an amazing start to the new year. We will be here. No, is it? No, it's not our last one. What am I saying? No, it is.
It might end up being, because I think Christmas are after.
Overlap.
Yeah, it's going to be like Wednesday, Thursday. I don't think. Yeah, I think this is it.
So if it's not it, bonus for you, surprise. But if it is it, I hope you guys have amazing holidays and a wonderfully happy new year. We will be here in 2025 with fresh new content, ideas, tips, tricks, and all that Laura has for us in store. I can just see it. I can see the wheels turning right now. If you wanted to, and I think it's the start of our third year or our fourth year.
I think it might be it's definitely at least our third. I think it's our third year. Yeah, I think we maybe started in 23.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you want to check out, though, any of our past videos, any of our past podcast episodes, I totally encourage you to do so. I share them all the time, Laura, especially when I'm on social and I see a mama that's, you know, having an issue or is asking a question. And I'm like, ooh, we have a video for that. We have a video for that. We have a video for that. So I'm sharing them constantly. You guys will love them too. Hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at Mom Nation USA. That is our handle. And on your favorite podcast platform, Mom Nation Talk Radio, just do a quick search for that title. And there you will find us, like us, download, notify, all the things. You'll never miss an episode of me and Laura if you do that, I promise. And we'll see you next year. Maybe.
All right. Bye.